A couple of years ago, I made a video talking about how I had a 100% win rate trading LEAPS options. And well, that's still true to this day, technically, because for the most part, I stopped trading LEAPS options. But for full transparency, I am back holding a 320 SPY LEAPS put option expiring in 2024. But in this video, I'm going to be giving you 3 reasons why I stopped trading LEAPS. The first reason why I stopped trading LEAPS options is because they're so stinking expensive. And to be honest with you, I'm not super rich.
You look poor.
I'm not a hedge fund manager. I didn't start with daddy's money.
You look broke ass.
In fact, I started with a negative net worth of $10,000 because I took out a bunch of money on credit cards. But over the last couple of years, I built up myself. I've made more income, and now my portfolio is $75,000, which still I don't feel like is enough in order to trade LEAPS options, at least on a decent stock. Because if you want to trade a LEAPS option for SPY, for example, the S&P 500, then that's probably going to cost you upwards of $3,000 for a deep out-of-the-money LEAPS option. And whenever you're trading out-of-the-money LEAPS options, if your option stays out of the money, that means that you lose whatever you pay into it. So it's not exactly the best strategy. And I'd rather not throw $3,000 or about 5% of my portfolio in what I would consider an unsafe trade. I would rather put that $3,000 into a few more certain trades. Usually whenever I'm trading options, I stick with between $1,000 or $2,000 in risk, depending on how confident I am in the trade. And with LEAPS options, I just don't have that confidence in order to put up $3,000 on a single trade. And part of the reason as to why I'm not confident in them is because this market is so freaking volatile, and you don't know where the market is going to head next, especially when it comes to longer time frames. When you're talking about months or years, there's no telling where the stock market is going to be. For example, who would have thought that the stock market would have gone up by like 10-15% during the summer when it had sold off probably about 20% in the months leading up to it? Nobody would have expected that, but it did happen. And if you bought a LEAPS put option in the beginning, whenever the market was coming down, then you probably would have lost most of the money that you put into that LEAPS option. And obviously the stock market has come down since the summer, but going through that and holding on to basically a heavy bag would have been extremely difficult and extremely taxing on your trading psychology. And even on shorter time frames, not even talking about months, we can talk about days. The markets can be extremely volatile. If there's some sort of economic data coming out, or if Jerome Powell is speaking, sometimes you will see down 4% in a single day. And the way that this happens is a narrative shift. So what the markets have been telling themselves over the last 3-6 months is that the Fed is going to pivot. First, it was the Fed is going to pivot by cutting interest rates, then it was the Fed is going to pivot by pausing interest rate hikes, and then now it's the Fed is going to pivot by slowing down interest rate hikes. So the markets keep trying to sell you this narrative of the Fed pivot, and then every time that new data comes out or Jay Powell ends up speaking, this ends up destroying the narrative, and it creates a lot of volatility for the stock market. So you don't know where the stock market is going to go in a longer term time frame, months or years, and sometimes you don't even know where the stock market is going to go on shorter time frames in days or weeks.
I don't care if you're Warren Buffett or if you're Jimmy Buffett, nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in fucking circles.
But I'm more confident in trading shorter time frames, days or weeks, because I understand how these events change the stock market, and I'm halfway decent at guessing how these events are going to go. Obviously, I'm going to get 1 or 2 wrong, but the ones that I get right, I make a lot more money on. We'll talk about that later, but tail events are extremely important for growing your portfolio. And the second reason why I stopped trading LEAPS option kind of ties into the first reason, and that is that whenever you buy a LEAPS option, you're using up all your buying power on a single trade. And if you're using up all your buying power, that means that you can't take on any other opportunities. Whenever I'm running out of buying power, if I'm down to, say, $1,000 or $2,000, I start to get stressed. My trading psychology gets screwed up. But whenever my buying power is a lot higher, something like $5,000, $6,000, then I feel a lot more secure in taking on new positions. I'm not spinning my wheels thinking about which positions that I need to exit. I'm more focused on what I need to open, what new opportunities that I can take. So it's important to keep your buying power high, add to your buying power if you can afford to, and this will help you to become a better trader. And finally, the last reason why I stopped trading LEAPS options kind of ties into what I've been talking about, but again, it's going more in depth. And the reason why I stopped trading LEAPS is because of liquidity. Liquidity, or the ability to get in and out of your options positions as quickly as possible, should be your number one priority, especially as an active trader. Now, obviously, if you're a long-term investor, then liquidity doesn't matter as much, but for me, I am a very active trader. I trade every single day, and liquidity is my number one priority. And this is one of the reasons why I stopped trading LEAPS options, because I had an experience to where I put up 30% of my portfolio on a SPY LEAPS put option, which cost me $3,000 in a $9,000 options portfolio, and I got left bag holding that LEAPS option when SPY ended up going up over the next couple of weeks. So I could have spent that $3,000 elsewhere. I could have put it into so many other opportunities. Oh, boo-hoo! Each trade usually cost me around $1,000, so this ended up robbing me of at least 3 opportunities. And the problem whenever you're not taking on new opportunities and you're holding on to one specific option is that the more opportunities that you take, the more lucky that you're going to get. This is what you call luck in numbers. The more trades that you're able to take on, the more likely that you are to make a large profit on one of those trades. And this is a concept that I learned from psychology of money. And basically what it said is that wealth is driven by tail events. And what a tail event is a very unlikely event. It usually only happens about 2% of the time, but when it does happen, it can have really big impact. For example, 9/11 unfortunately caused a lot of fiscal spending over the course of 2001 to 2008, and that led into people getting laid off of their jobs, going back to school to get a college education, and that college education put them tens of thousands of dollars in debt. So this one event, 9/11, ended up causing millions of people to take on tens of thousands of dollars in student debt. These 2% events can have really big impacts, and especially whenever it comes to your trading. For me, I don't usually make a lot of profit on each trade that I make. It's usually anywhere between maybe $100 and $500. My losses, sometimes they can rack up to $1,000, but most of the time I try to keep them below $200 or $300. But then my big winners can be up to something like $1,500, $2,000. And these are what really drives my options portfolio and where I see most of my gains. If it wasn't for these tail event trades, then I probably wouldn't be profitable. But because I'm putting on all of these opportunities, this is giving me more luck than if I were to take on less opportunities, because I don't have enough cash because all of my buying power is locked up into a LEAPS option. So that's why I stopped trading LEAPS options. Let me know your thoughts on LEAPS options down in the comments below. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of this video, and thank you to all my patrons for their support. And as always, remember to stay positive, stay green. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.